I used to do that with Michael, and he learned it so good that he did it in Scream. There's a breakdown where he does a solo in Scream, and he's, for the first time on film, he's doing that wave, my wave on the side.
Yeah.
I
have to go back and watch that. I got to go back and watch that video. Take a look at that.
There's another that he changed called the car.
Mm-hmm.
If you see me in Opposites Attract, there's some footage on YouTube where it's behind the scenes where it shows me in a car, like simulating driving a car, like in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I used to do that. That was like part of my routine. And when Michael Jackson seen it, instead of pretending or simulating like he's driving with a car, he changed it and he grabbed his crotch. And so next thing you know, he had that stance, that famous stance where he's in like a straddle position.
Right.
And he grabs his crotch, yelling.
Yeah.
He like totally changed that step from doing the car, but he would walk out and do his famous yell.
Right, I know what you're talking about now. The car move was done in Breakin' too. Breakin', right? The original movie. Did Shabba-Doo do that, or was that you? I can't remember. Which in the movie Breakin', you did the car move.
No. In the movie Breakin', I didn't do the car move. I wasn't doing the car move back then. I mean, in the film. But it was one of those moves that I would do like while I was battling or doing solos.
Mm-hmm.
There's some video footage of me on YouTube. I've got a number of videos on YouTube.
Yes.
But there's some performances, live performances where I'm doing the car. And later on he learned that.
Well, let's move on then. You were talking about working with Michael Jackson. Did you work with any other famous artists in the post-breaking years, the late 80s, 90s?
Yeah, it was really surprising to me. I got a phone call from my agent that somebody very important, they said, wanted to work out with me. And when I got the job, it was like this artist wanted to pay me $400 for 1 hour. So I said, okay, well, let me go and get the $400 for 1 hour. That was pretty good money in the 90s. And I went and I got the rehearsal studio, and sure enough, Michael Flatley from Lord of the Dance.
Wow.
He walks in. He goes, hey, how you doing? I'm like, hi. I didn't really know who he was, but I found out who he was later. And he walks in and he goes, yeah. He goes, I heard about your robot and all your stuff. He goes, I just want to see you jam. He goes, I want to jam with you for a little bit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I knew that he looked like Robert Plant. I mean, he looked like a rock star. Like,
right.
Even there with boots on, I was like, okay, well, can I see what you do? And he got up and he started doing these pirouettes. And he had the feet of flames. I mean, his legs were powerful.
Yeah.
And I said, well, when I work with Michael Jackson, I did this and did that. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I don't want to look like Michael. He goes, I just want you to do some of your stuff. And so as I was popping or whatever, I mean, he was a professional. I mean, he's a master, so he could pick up real quick. In that session, what he wanted to learn was my transition from smooth to hard. How I make my, the robotic portion of my style is real solid and real rigid. Then there's a transition where you go real smooth and make yourself look like water, or simulating, a wind blowing or a wave. So he really got into how I made my transition. And next thing I know, they were telling me one of the reasons why he wanted to work out with me. He had just left Riverdance to do his own show called Lord of the Dance. So it was in that transition period where he was leaving Riverdance to do Lord of the Dance where I worked out with him. And I thought that was a particular treat.
Any video of that?
You know what? I had my own camera back then. I tried to get the session on tape, but he didn't allow any camera. He didn't really any filming. So I respected his wishes.
Right.
And I just turned my camera off because he wanted it to be a surprise. And you know what's interesting? People like him and every other artist that I work with, a lot of these guys, they're known. Michael Jackson and him, they were both known as great innovators themselves, and so a lot of times you didn't really hear about people like me until years later, because they were trying to form, their reputation as being innovators, and especially Michael Jackson. I want to go back to him. I mean, this guy was a smart man. I mean, and it probably would have watered down his notoriety as being a dance innovator if people thought that he learned from other artists, you know.
Right.
So, a lot of artists try to tone down who they work with, and we were just like session players, they would just pay us to do our thing, and it was a credit that we would have on our resume, but we didn't really go public doing that. So, yeah, that was interesting teaching him.
Okay. Would you consider I'm changing the questions just a little bit. Would you consider the 1990s sort of the lean years for your particular art, when, the breakdancing fad, as mentioned, had come and gone, and people really were switching their interest to different aspects of the hip-hop culture, gangster rap, etc.? Or did you find steady work throughout the 1990s?
No, it actually, it was pretty hard, and so what I was doing, I was focusing my attention on music and writing music so that I could probably, get royalties. Actually, matter of fact, I wrote a few jingles for a television show that I was on. I was focusing on getting residuals and getting music from BMI. So I was working on the Dom DeLuise show as a dancer / actor, and doing special effects stuff. Like I said, I did the cat, played the cat in Paul Abdul. I also made an appearance in the movie Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey with Keanu Reeves as a robot.
Right.
Which, it paid the bills. I also played the robot Steve Urkel on the show Family Matters.
Very famous, yeah.
Yeah, so I was focusing my energy on special effects and developing my singing career. But, the gangster rap and all that, people weren't into dancing, but, I stayed true to my style. I wasn't trying to go outside of what I was known for. People knew what I did, and they knew I was a master at it, and so I didn't really, diversify, into trying to change my style into being, a jazz dancer or just an all-around choreographer. I was just more of a specialty act.
Did you ever consider joining any of the groups that were out there, like the Electric Boogaloos, with guys like Poppin' Pete and others? I mean, these sorts of groups seem to at least keep their face and their names in the public. A lot of YouTube videos, for example, on the Electric Boogaloos. Did you ever consider doing something like that?
No, because, I had already gotten notoriety on my own.
Right.
And although we were already friends, remember I told you there was a lot of animosity because I kind of got a lot of the spotlight with the breaking movies. And so a lot of them, were kind of jealous of me, and, they were trying to make a name for themselves. And, just like I said, it just seemed for the longest time I was pretty much by myself because nobody wanted to be associated with, the star, the star of the movie Breaking, because my name was out there. And that was the downside, because I really liked the camaraderie and I liked the friendship side of it. But the videos, the volume of videos that you've seen, it was a good thing for Pop and Pete and other people to get out there, because they were kind of like left out of history. They didn't really get a lot of limelight. So I was kind of glad that their videos are out there, and they found a new life in teaching their style to a lot of the young generation.
When did you start to notice a resurgence in your particular style and breakdancing in general? Did you notice it first in L.A., or were you somewhere else in the world and you saw it again? I ask because I remember I was teaching in Thailand at the time, and this was probably early 2000, 2003, and I began to see these Thai youth, windmilling and spinning on their head, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I hadn't seen this since 1984. What's going on here? When did you start to notice a resurgence of it?
Matter of fact, I made my notes. In 2003, that's when I really said to myself, popping's coming back. Because